Okay, still Sam, we've been chatting, Kerry and I, about her experience training to be a teacher, an RE teacher following her religion, philosophy and ethics degree. The last thing perhaps we'll chat about is your application procedure to become a trainee teacher was writing a personal statement and obviously doing the forms and having an interview. How was that overall?
It was more than I expected it to be. I actually ended up applying late for teacher training, so a lot of your students will have hopefully applied by now.
The current cycle,
because it opens in November. I actually applied for mine in January because I was going to take a year out, and then I sort of thought, oh no, actually I will go and do it. In some ways, that served me better because there was 2 vacancies or positions that got put on later.
Right.
So in some ways but if you know where you want to go and it opens in November, I would definitely obviously apply as early as you can.
It remains quite competitive.
Very competitive.
Thing to do,
Also, I don't know if students are aware, they probably are looking into it, the bursary has come back for next year.
Yes, I think a lot of students have seen it between the press, quite a bit of the press, that bursaries for RE teachers are good. You chose a bad year.
I did choose a very bad year, I've got £9,000 for it next year. So unfortunately, I don't have a bursary. But because there is a bursary, a lot of people that didn't do teacher training last year, like a lot of people on my course now, in my year, are considering going and doing it because of the bursary. So this following year...
So that raises the bar in terms of your statement and your interview being top-notch.
Absolutely. So there's going to be a lot more applicants this year, so you need to make yours stand out. The careers team here are very good, so they helped me with my personal statement, and they proofread it. They gave me... I actually went and saw them for interview advice as well. So thoroughly recommend everyone in the careers team here. They're very helpful and really help prepare me. So definitely use them as much as you can. Personal statement wise, make it stand out. Absolutely. If you're applying for teacher training, try and make it sound relevant. So I brought in aspects of the course that we learn here and relate it to the national curriculum.
Picking out topics you know the schools are doing and that you did on the RPE course. Making an explicit connection that you, not only there is a connection, but you know there's a connection.
Exactly. And to make it very personal, I would find it quite difficult writing about myself, sort of showing off. But you need to in personal
People often find it hard at first when they get going. Fine.
Make it stand out. Get experience in a school. If you have 2 people going for interview, one has experience in school and one doesn't.
I think we need to say that really loud, that if you want to be an RE teacher and get on a course, you just need volunteering, observing, assisting. You just need some
Absolutely.
Otherwise, they're in the position of, dare we give a place to someone who's, when they find out what it's really like in schools, go and drop out, and they've wasted a place.
And the other thing as well is a lot of interview questions I found, were based around experience in school. So if you haven't had that, you won't be able to answer half.
So you've got to appear fluent in the things that we talked about in previous interviews about schemes of work and about how schools work and how report writing works, and just you've got to really be kind of, I presume, deeply kind of familiar with that world,
and
so you can talk about it.
Just have experience with children. So if you can't get in a school, volunteer brownies or swim instructor, anything like that. So quite on my interview question, give me an example you've had a positive interaction with a child and how you helped that child to progress. If I haven't had any experience with children, I couldn't answer that question.
You just kind of really flounder. And you said, I think we were talking before, that you found the interview process quite challenging. They were pretty.
So I applied for 3 places, got offered interviews at all 3, but I only went to 2 because I got offered both those places and they were the better places. So I applied for PGCEs at Chichester and Winchester, and I applied for a school-centred initial teacher training with the Solent skit, because I'm based in Hampshire. So I went for both my PGCE interview at Chichester and the skit one, and was offered both. With the PGCE interview, it was a lot easier. And slightly less organised, which was one of the reasons why I perhaps didn't choose to go there. You have about an hour-long interview where they ask various questions, which I'll go through in a moment. Always remember what you wrote in your personal statement, because they will use it in your interview.
Have a quick look at that before.
Absolutely, You have a written test to make sure you can read and write to a suitable standard. They do take into account things like dyslexia, so don't let that put you off. If you have any issues, you can still teach. There's 2 dyslexic teachers I'm currently training with, and they do brilliantly, but they just need to be aware of it. But that don't let
That's
the
not a
reading and
problem, yeah.
writing tests hold you back at all. And you, generally speaking, have to teach as well. So you have to prepare sort of like a 5-minute
So you're
teaching
going to watch
thing.
you.
Yeah. The PhD interview was very surreal because my 2 interviewers actually pretended to be children. So like, oh, miss, and I didn't really know how to deal with that, and it was a bit scary.
It scares me just the idea of it.
Yeah, like 2 grown women like, oh, miss.
People are older than you pretending to be.
Yeah, it was really strange.
Well, I guess you can cope with that.
Yeah. The skit interview was a lot harder. It was 5 hours long.
5 hours.
5 hours.
And that's split into different kinds of activities?
Yeah, so I had the interview again, which was a bit long, about an hour and a half. Had a subject knowledge test. So I had to sit a GCSE paper.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which was interesting.
I'm glad you passed, I hope.
I did. I didn't want to find out my mark though.
No,
I was slightly worried. I had a prioritising task test, which is where I was given an hour and I had this paper, and it had different scenarios, and I had to rank them in which one I would respond to first. So like 1 to 5, and then write reasons for them. So that was interesting. Yeah. Basically, it didn't matter what you put them in, as long as you justify why you were doing it.
Yeah.
And some of them were obviously slightly higher priority than what other ones were. The bit which I found hardest, which I perhaps wasn't prepared for, which I would really recommend your students to prepare for, is current educational issues. So I was asked in both interviews about current educational issues. I did try and do some research before I went to my interviews, but there's not a lot out there unless you know what you're looking for. So things like pupil premium children, free school meals are 2 really key areas that are being focused on at the moment. If obviously you're going to be teaching RS, compliance is another thing.
Yeah.
So at the moment, RS is compulsory to be taught up to GCSE level, or up,
up to that age.
Up to that age. It doesn't have to be GCSE course, but up to that age. About 90% of schools in the UK are non-compliant.
Yeah, Ofsted identified there are exceptions to that, so that's an issue. I guess also this year, students will need to be able to demonstrate at least they're aware that there are new GCSE and A-level specs being out for consultation, and there's all that stuff around. Looking at, I suppose, the National Association of Teachers of RE's website, looking at their press releases, just so you look like you're actually taking it seriously.
Absolutely. Also, Ofsted's criteria has changed this year. It's been majorly rewritten with more focus on SMSC, which is social, moral, spiritual and cultural aspects. Which
of course many people feel is intention with the new GCSE and A-level specs, which are more content-based.
Absolutely.
Religion-based.
Yeah. So with more focus on SMSC and Ofsted, a lot of schools will fail Ofsted if they are non-compliant. As you said, the GCSE specs have and A-level specs may be changing. At my school, we're hoping not. At the moment, we have a really good uptake of GCSE students because they enjoy looking at the moral and ethical issues.
It sounds like you kind of matches the staffing as well very well.
Yeah, so we look at a lot like a moral and ethical issues, and the kids absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So with my year 11s, we've just finished animal rights, and it's really nitty gritty, and they've really enjoyed it, and they could apply like Buddhist and Christian teachings to it, and they really loved it. With the new specs, it's much sort of like historical and
much more religious knowledge.
Yeah, content based. And I don't know personally if I could make it as exciting as my current lessons, and I think the popularity of it would decrease. So it's a massive worry.
But an interview, presumably, that's the kind of thing that students are going to need to be. If an interviewer asks them about that, if they don't know about it, they'll potentially look less stupid, or they might look less kind of knowledgeable than the next candidate who does know all about that.
Exactly.
And just, they might not ask about it, but it'll give you confidence if you know about what's happening.
I mean, they might also be open-ended question, like, what at the moment is bothering you about education, or speak about a current educational issue. If you can bring in something that's subject-based, so like the spec, exam spec changes, that's going to look like you're keen and that you are actually interested in your subject area and teaching that area. So that's definitely going to stand you in good stead, I would say.
But it sounds pretty scary, 5-hour interviews, tests and things, but you got through it.
Yay!
And you got offered the 2 places that you were able to kind of make a choice about what suited you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And make the decisions led to that. So students, the best thing I think with students is to be aware that it won't be easy, Be prepared sounds like the main
Yeah.
thing. Do some volunteering
Absolutely.
well before, but also do some preparation right up to the interview, and make sure you're walking confident that you know your stuff.
The other thing I would really quickly
Yeah.
say is with skip programs, you are going to be based in a school. So I had my interview in the school that I was going to be based in, and one of the main reasons why they offered me the place was because I researched that school and their ethos and what they do there before I went for the interview. So when they were saying, you know, I genuinely didn't have many questions in the interview because I've done all my research. And when they spoke about things, I was like, oh yeah, you know, I know you're working for Outstanding Women next Ofsted, you know, things like
if
that.
you're in a skip interview type situation in a school, of course, all that school's previous Ofsteds are all available to download and read.
Absolutely.
And there'll be an RE section.
Look on their website.
Yeah.
There's schools that have to put legally so much more information on their websites now. But things like they have details of the subjects they teach. So when I went into the interview, I said, you know, I see you teach this scheme of work in year 8. I've covered this in my degree, for example. So that's really
So there's no excuse for going to an interview without really quite in depth.
It's in with a PGC, you don't know which school you're going to be based in, but you can still tailor it to what they offer there.
Yeah, and what that kind of unit is.
Absolutely, which is really helpful. It's not as scary as it seems. The bit which I would say is having to teach people, so having to prepare 5 minutes of a lesson, run through it as much as you can, and if you can sit down with friends or family and teach them, because it's scary in front of a class, absolutely, but it's scarier trying to teach adults who are potentially going to be offering you a place.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So if you've done it quite a lot in rehearsal, it doesn't feel quite as weird.
Absolutely, yeah. And know how to use technology. I had a PowerPoint for my lesson and didn't know how to use PowerPoint before I started teaching. So that's always a good thing.
Just practice that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you ever so much, and thank you, and best of luck for the rest of the course.
Thank you very much. Thanks.